That's a good one.
What is going on, guys? This is Gene Jensen, and it is late winter, early spring, and I want to talk about one of my favorite baits to throw during this time of the year. And that's, of course, a jerkbait. All right, so for years, a jerkbait has been one of those baits I love to hate, but I'll still fish. And I guess to a point it still is, but I've learned so much about it over the last few years. And it's just an absolute blast when the water temperature starts to rise up. And I'm talking about early pre-spawn, so late winter, early spring. And the way I know when I'm going to be the most successful with a jerkbait, that is when those water temperatures are starting to rise. If I get a 2 or 3 or 4 day warm up, I grab my jerkbait and I'll go fishing. And when I mean warm up, I mean you got to know what the water temperature is where you're going to go fishing, or be somewhere close to where it is. And then pay attention to those nighttime temperatures. And when those nighttime temperatures hold above the water temperature, that water is, of course, going to start to warm up. And it doesn't take much, 1 or 2 or 3 degrees, and these fish move up and they get a little bit more aggressive, a little bit easier to catch, and an absolute blast. So let's talk about the equipment, and then let's go into how to fish it. Let's get rocking and rolling. All right, so the jerkbait itself, I run 3 or 4 different brands. I like to buy, when I'm doing crankbaits and jerkbaits and stuff like that, I like to stay kind of not loyal, but to kind of buy the same brands, because that way I know how they react and I know how to modify them if I need to. I hate to have too many different types of the same type of bait, or too many different brands that act different. Just keeps it simple in my head is all it is. But there's 4 different brands that I have in my box. One is the old tried and true Smithwick Rogue, which works sometimes. We'll discuss that here in just a minute. And then both the deep diving and shallow diving version of the Strike King jerkbait. And I'm going to leave the link down in the description to all these things, by the way, like I do in all my videos. And then this one might be going away because Rapala just took over 13 Fishing, but this is the 13 Fishing Loco Special. This is an amazing jerkbait. It's one of those ones that a lot of people have been keeping secret. They're gonna have to buy them up quick, I think. So, but the one I usually tie on first is the old tried and true Vision 110 or 110 Plus, which is what this one is. Several different colors. I try to buy clear colors for clear lakes, and that's a lot of times these lakes that typically are really beautiful and green, got a lot of algae in the summertime, real healthy lakes. Well, in the wintertime they get super clear because all that algae dies off, and so I run those clear baits. And then if I get in some dingier water, I don't fish it in muddy water, but if I get into some dingy water, then I'll pull out the ones that you can't see through. So that's typically it. I'll run some bright colors if I feel like I need to, especially around smallmouth and that kind of stuff. But typically this is all it is clear water, clear baits, dingy water, solid baits. Lots of flash, either gold or silver and that kind of stuff. Now, we'll talk about modification just in a minute. So rods and reels. I love a medium moderate rod, so a square bill rod, some type of a crankbait rod or a cranking rod, a 7 foot down to 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", something like that. A reel that's really good at casting light lures. This is a Cast King Kestrel, which is a really good. It's one I tried out this year for the BFS stuff, the Bass Finesse series. Excuse me. Or the bait casting finesse reels. I tried those out and I really fell in love with this one. It's a really good BFS reel, and it throws light baits and especially jerk baits really, really well. So that's why I'm going with that. And then line is critical. 10 or 12 pound test fluorocarbon. I use Cigar Tatsu and I use Cigar Abrazex. I've been using it for years and years. I think first time I ever used Cigar was in 2006, and I've been using it ever since. But Tatsu or Abrazex fluorocarbon, because you need that line to help draw that bait down. Really, really important. I get most of my strikes when that bait's paused and slowly sinking. Okay, let's talk about how to modify jerk baits to get them to do that. Now, when you first get out in the water and you tie on a jerk bait, like I did just a few minutes ago, I just made a little pitch out in front of me. I jerked that bait just a little bit just to watch it, and it started to rise a little bit. And you guys know these little hooks on these Vision 110s, they are teeny tiny, really thin wired hooks, super sharp, really difficult to mess around with because of the fact that they are so sharp. But when I jerked it around, water temperature is 53 degrees, and the temperature has a lot to do with whether it sinks or floats too. But jerked it around and it started to float up, and I don't want that. I want it to sink really slow in this super clear water. And so I changed out that smaller hook with a larger, kind of a slightly heavier wire treble hook is all I did. Threw it out there and it started to sink real slow. Another thing is when it stops in the water, when it suspends in the water, I want it to suspend nose down. And the weights in this Vision 110 and the weights in a lot of those other jerk baits will cause it to go nose down. If it doesn't, you want to make sure that you put weight somewhere up front to get it to tilt down just like this, and you want it to sink real slow just like that. Have those hooks, when the fed bass are looking at it from behind, you want those hooks to be right in his face, is the way I see it anyway. So add heavier hooks. If you don't need that much weight, if you just want it to sink, to adjust the weight just a little bit, put a split ring on that front hook, okay? So right there where you see that other split ring, just hang a split ring off that split ring is all you got to do, and it'll add just a little bit of weight and cause it to sink really slowly. Another thing is those little sticky suspend dots. I'm sure I've got one somewhere buried deep in my jerkbait box that has those on there, but that'll put a little bit of weight up in the nose and cause it to tilt down. And that's all you got to do just to adjust the weight. And like I said, water temperature affects that. If it's a little bit warmer, it tends to make it rise. If it's down in the 40s, it'll sink a little bit. You've always, when you tie on a jerkbait, whether you've adjusted it, modified it, done anything to it at all, check it. Make sure you want a little bit of a fall. This one almost falls too fast, but it's good enough for me. It falls in that range. So definitely a must. There's one. Got him. Oh, he's pulling drag. Pulling drag. So what happened there is I saw a school of baitfish come up like they were being chased by some bass. And all I did was just throw over top of them. So all I did, he's a good one too. Either that or I got him foul hooked. Oh, nope. Come here. Yes, sir. Ooh, that bait popped right out. He was barely hooked. And that's why you use a net. In a kayak, you use a net to keep the hooks from going in your crotch. There ain't nothing worse than a flopping fish around your midsection. So, anyway, look at that stud. Awesome. I'm telling you guys, when you get it, when you finally get to the point, and it took me years to gain confidence in this stinking bait, but when you figure it out, and I got hooks all in my fingers, but when you figure it out, it can become an absolute amazing, fun way to catch fish when it's cold. Fun. A jerkbait. Give it a try. I know you guys will love it. If you ain't got no confidence in it, do what I did. You don't see another rod in this boat. All I needed was one and a jerkbait. There you go. All right, so the places I look for when I'm fishing a jerkbait is one of the first things is channel swings. I am going to look at a map and I'm going to find that creek channel, that river channel, and I'm going to look to where that channel swings up close to the bank. So your steeper banks is what you're looking for if you don't have a map, and you need to, don't have a fish finder. Hopefully you have a fish finder on your boat at this time, but you just need to know depth change. And so you're looking for that channel swing to swing up against the bank, and they love to hang out in that vertical structure. Another thing is where a channel swing will swing up against a point. If you got a long point that sticks out and that channel swings up against that point, dude, that is like money. Somewhere along that point will be a stack of bass, and you just got to look for it. That's where I caught that one. Caught one just a few minutes ago. You'll probably see on this video. It wasn't a big one, but it was a channel swing. It was right there where a channel swung up against a long point. There's vertical cover, like standing timber and that kind of stuff. I'll jerk a jerkbait over top of standing timber, over top of brush piles. Specifically, I love those brush piles that people put out that are made out of bamboo, because they tend to be a lot more vertical. And in the wintertime, bait fish, they tend to not roam as much. They'll stay in a general area, but they tend to go up and down more. They'll go vertical instead of horizontal like they do in the summertime and in the warmer months. And so bass tend to follow them too, and bass will stay on that vertical cover and that vertical structure. Very, very key. All right, so let me slip back over here where I saw some bass just a few minutes ago that they caused me to stop trying to film this video. But anyway, so I'm gonna slip back over here and I wanna show you guys some techniques on how we fish it. Now, I'm just now learning how to use live scope, so I'm not gonna emphasize live scope in this video so much, or learning how to use live scope with a jerkbait. So I'm not gonna emphasize that. This is all about how to entice a strike over top of cover and over top of structure. And live scope does help because you can see how they're reacting and that kind of stuff. But basically what I'm sitting up on right now, if you guys look, I got the back camera on. Yeah, I got the back camera on. Is up against some riprap, and this riprap comes out and there's a little ditch and then a rise, and then it falls down into the deepest water, which I'm calling the channel for all intents and purposes. So I'm sitting over deep water. I'm in, well, I just came out of deep water. I'm in about 15-20 feet right here. I'm sitting on 10, and what I'm gonna do is, since I know this riprap so well, but if you don't, I usually would zigzag and back and forth and find out what depth that riprap stops at, and kind of gauge, figure out what all's going on with this, with this area, and how deep I can run this jerkbait. Now, you got to remember, I set my jerkbaits up to sink, and so I don't want to pause them for so long that they get stuck on the bottom, get hung in that riprap. But and when I say riprap, I mean these rocks and stuff that are along this dam. And so I'm gonna cast out, I'm gonna crank it down about 5 or 6 turns, and then even in a kayak, you can do it sitting down. But I would recommend that you do it standing up. It's just a lot easier to jerk and jerk and jerk if you're gonna do it a lot. But in the wintertime, I wanna go really, really slow, okay? And so sitting down in a kayak actually helps me to slow the heck down and not jerk so much, okay? And so all I'm doing is I gotta think, okay, water temperature's 52 degrees right now. It was in the 40s. It's warming up a little bit. These bass might be a little bit more active than what they would be when it's in the low 40s. But if that water temperature's in the low 40s or even into the 30s, I'm not gonna jerk it that hard. I'm literally just gonna go tap, tap, and let it sit there for a 3 or 4 second count. I go tap, 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 and let it sit there for a 3 or 4 second count. That's all I'm gonna do. Now, understand that if you're doing like I'm doing right now and jerking that rod up, it's gonna cause the nose of that bait as it gets closer to the boat to pop up a little bit. It's gonna decrease your depth, which is fine. Just know that that's what it's gonna do. And sometimes you want it to do that. Say, my bass are really, really lethargic. I'm gonna tap, tap, and then I just feel like I need to bring it up a little bit higher. I go pop, pop, and I'll pop it up, and I let it sink. Pop, pop, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. But as that water temperature warms up, I would still keep that same cadence of 2 pops and a 3 second pause, or 3 pops and a 3 second pause, or whatever. And but I would also I lost my train of thought. I looked down and saw a fish under the boat. I would also just let it, as the water warms up, I would jerk a little bit more, a little harder is what I would do, okay? And I typically will get more bites doing that than anything. So just a tap, tap, and a pause. And a tap, tap, and a pause. And cover that structure really, really good. Cover that point, that channel swing above the trees and stuff like that. Now, typically a deep diving jerkbait will dive 10 to 12 feet deep, depending on the fluorocarbon. And then a shallow one will go 6 to 8 feet. And these bass will move up, will come up to hit it. So just understand that. A lot of times they'll follow it. Have a good pair of solid sunglasses. Even on the cloudy days like this, have a pair of sunglasses. I have mine off right now because I can't see the screen on my camera when I have them on because of the polarization. But anyway, make sure you do that. And That way you can see the fish following your bait, and you'll know there's fish in the area, and you can try to do other things to try to entice them to bite. All right, so this is the closest thing I got to a channel swing near me, which is pretty much what it is. It's actually, yeah, I guess I'd call it a channel swing. It's kind of a bluff wall. But I'm setting up, and I'm casting and working this bait parallel to the channel swing, trying to keep that bait in the strike zone as long as I can. If I get that bait out of where the bass are willing to come to bite it, of course they're going to turn around and go away. So let me position the boat just a little bit, and I kind of want to get the bait between where I think the bass are and the bank. That way they're more apt to try to pin it up towards the bank. Okay, so reel it down, and I'm just going to pop, and I'm going to pause. Okay, pop. That's all I'm going to do is I'm going to work it, 10 or 12 casts, move a little bit further. 10 or 12 casts, move a little bit further. That's all I'm going to do. And if you stay parallel to whatever kind of structure, when I say structure, a lot of guys, you guys that are new, structure is the change in the depths, change in what's going on the bottom. So if I'm standing, I'm casting parallel to the bank, or parallel to the structure, or parallel to the point, along the edge of the steep side of that point, more than likely you're going to get a bass to come up and at least investigate. Okay, and once you get them turned on to a jerk bait, once you get one bite, get that bass off of that jerk bait, put him in the live well if you're fishing a tournament, release him, throw right back out, and you're going to catch another one. Throw right back out, make the same cast over and over and over again. And if you've got a school of fish, which is a lot of times that's what happens, you'll catch 4 or 5 of them in a row really, really quick. If you hurry, if you get that fish in, get him off the hook, and get to casting again. Just like any other time when you're throwing a crankbait or stuff like that, you get that school turned on, and they just one after another. There's one. Oh. Man, they're chunky. Yes. Look at that. Good old fat fish. Man, they're so healthy this time of year. So healthy. Man, oh man. All right, I'm gonna let him go so I can get treble hooks out of a net. Look at that daggone fish. Yes. All right, so when I showed you earlier the Smithwick Rogue jerkbait, okay. Let's see if I can get it untangled from the other ones. Gotta love treble hooks. All right, so I want you to look closely at the Smithwick Rogue. Okay. Now, what I have been fishing with the Vision 110 is a jerk pause style jerkbait. That's really not what this is. Where this one shines, where this Smithwick Rogue shines, is in that stained water, that dirtier, darker, less visibility water, and it is a pool style jerkbait. You pull, pause, pull, pause, pull, and it displaces more water. It causes more vibration. It gets a bit better in that darker, dirtier water. So keep that in mind when you get to your lake and it's got a little bit of stain in it because of recent rains or whatever. grab a Smithwick Rogue or something with that flat bill and just jerk. You pull it and pause it. Pull, pause. Pull, pause. Not a pop, okay? And you'll get bit. It's a lot of fun, so remember that. Now, I kind of see why people like to use active target and forward-facing sonar for jerkbait fishing. Typically, I'd be fishing really, really slow. And those fish, I could watch them react, and they reacted more to a fast jerk. So I sped it up. Do I feel like it's cheating? Yeah, maybe. Sure is fun though. Now with the advent of live scope, I'm sitting here, I've got my live scope right here with a sniper pole. It's for those of us who just love to fish, love to catch fish. It's a lot of fun. It really is. It's like playing a video game. There are days where I use it, and there are days where I'll leave it at the house or I forget how to fish regular. And so what's one of the biggest things is I recommend if you guys ever get active target like this, or live scope, or any kind of forward-facing sonar, give it a break. Don't stay staring at it all the time. It's a lot of fun, I know, but you're gonna lose your skills because I almost did last year, the year before last when I first got it. But like I said, right now I'm trying to do both. I'm trying to get it the normal everyday way, and I'm also trying to learn how to jerkbait fish with a live scope, which is something that's, I don't know, I got to get used to it. Whoa, this is a good one. I'm telling you guys, man, once you get them turned on, it's so much fun. So much fun. Look at that one. That's what I'm talking about. So when you get those warm-up days, grab a jerkbait, a few other winter baits, and have a good old time catching them. Look how fat they are. They're feeding so good. Man. Let me switch hands. There we go. Well, guys, like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water. Go ahead, catch some fish, and have a great day. We'll see you. I'm going back to fishing.